And Goldman Sachs analysts have projected that the price of copper will rise to $15,000 per metric ton by 2025.
Joining us for a conversation is Andrew Hecht, a world-renowned commodities trader and analyst with over 40 years of experience. Mr. Hecht, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Maurice. A pleasure to be back with you again.
Well, it's a pleasure to catch up with you to discuss one of my favorite metals that offers speculators a windfall potential of upside in their portfolio, and I'm speaking of copper. Mr. Hecht, before we delve into specifics, for someone new to the conversation, why is copper important in a civilized world?
Well, copper, for many years has gone by the nickname Dr. Copper. And it's because its price action tends to diagnose whether we're in an economic expansion or an economic contraction. But copper, and that's because it's a building block. It's a metal that's a building block used in construction and pipes and in various infrastructure projects and homes and the like. But copper's taken on new meaning over the past years as it is a critical component in addressing climate change, in EVs, electric vehicles, and wind turbines. This is increasing the demand side of copper's equation dramatically. And so copper is taking on a new role in the industrial world.
Well, let's look at some numbers. Looking back at 2021, how did copper perform?
Well, copper closed 2020 around $3.52 per pound. That's on the COMEX. That's the futures contract. It rallied to a high, a new all-time high of nearly just under the $4.90 per pound level in May. And it is currently trading just over $4.40, kind of in the middle of the annual trading range, but still close to the all-time highs as of the end of December. So very bullish price action in 2021.
Well, speaking of that bullish price action, what is your outlook for 2022 on copper?
Well, I think more of the same, Maurice. Listen, Goldman Sachs analysts have projected that the price of copper will rise to $15,000 per metric ton by 2025, and that would put the COMEX futures price over $6.80 a pound, appreciably higher than the current price level. In the next year, I think we see more of the same, higher highs and higher lows in copper. The trend is always your best friend, but the fundamentals, the supply and demand fundamentals really agree with the price change, the technical price trend, which always makes for the strongest case for the path of least resistance of prices.
Speaking of supply and demand fundamentals, do you see any opportunities for speculators?
I do. I think you buy dips in the copper market. I think that, listen, bull markets rarely move in a straight line, Maurice. There are always corrections, and those corrections can be brutal. Look, in May, we got up to almost nearly $4.90 a pound. In August, we were down probing for one day below $4. So bull market corrections can be absolutely brutal, but they're buying opportunities in good bull markets like in copper. I see the problem with copper on the fundamental side is that supplies are going to really struggle to keep up with demand because of addressing climate change. There is a lot of demand on the horizon, and it's very difficult. The current situation doesn't allow for supplies to keep up. It takes 8 to 10 years to bring a new copper mining project online. And there just aren't too many right now in the world that are going to satisfy the rising demand.
Speaking of that demand, the one feature or opportunity that really captures my attention is that we're going to consume more copper in the next 25 years than all of recorded history combined. That in and of itself says a lot about the value proposition of copper by itself, in my opinion.
It does, but also, listen, I'm 62 years old. I was born in 1959. In 1959, there were under 3 billion people on this planet. Today, there are 7.8 billion people on this planet consuming raw materials. And who need shelter, who need energy, this goes for copper and all commodities. The demand side of the fundamental equation is always growing, and supplies have to keep up with that. Uh, Population grows despite the pandemic and the tragic loss of life. Population continues to grow by about 20 million people per quarter. That's 80 million per year. At the turn of this century, there were 6 billion people on this planet. Today, there's 7.8 billion, over 7.8 billion.
All right, we know where copper is used. We understand now the supply and demand fundamentals. Let's talk to the individual speculator. If one were to construct a copper portfolio, should their first consideration be jurisdiction or tonnage?
Yeah, jurisdiction is key, man. It's so important. Look, you know, like in real estate, location, location, location. It's the same when it comes to production of all commodities, and copper is no um, um, exception to that. Copper mainly comes from Chile. They're the biggest producer at the Escondida mine. That a lot of the large mining companies have interest in. But interestingly enough, that jurisdiction could become problematic this year. In a recent election, the new president, who's a 35-year-old millennial, is also a socialist, and that brings up the potential for nationalizing mines and new regulations and all kinds of things that can affect supplies. Also, the pandemic weighs on supplies. Companies like BHP are scouring the world for new copper supplies, and they're even looking in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a very difficult political mining jurisdiction. Um, the friendliest jurisdiction really is the United States of America, where although there's more regulations addressing climate change today, it's still the most business friendly environment to mine copper, and Nevada, my home state. Is one of the best places. I think the Fraser Institute rated Nevada as the number one mining region in the world.
And rightfully so. And going back to Chile, there are a number of quality names there of copper producers, and we hope that the situation there doesn't turn for the worse based on the geopolitical concerns there. But as you referenced, one of the best, if not the best, mining jurisdiction in the world is Nevada. And a company that you and I both are shareholders in is Nevada Copper. For someone looking for the right blend of jurisdiction, project, and team, they seem to fit the bill. How does Nevada Copper fit into the narrative? And would you please introduce us to their flagship Pumpkin Hollow project and the unique opportunity they present to shareholders?
Yeah, sure. Listen, Nevada Copper is they're an exploration company. And, exploration companies, they have tremendous potential, but risk is always a function of potential rewards. So exploration companies tend to do much better than established miners, the BHPs and Freeports and Glencores and Rio Tintos during bull markets. And they tend to do much worse during bear market situations. And of course, there's always the risk, of production that comes into play. But Nevada Copper is really interesting to me because of we discussed it, the jurisdiction. Pumpkin Hollow is up in the Reno area, that general area. And they're on track to advance over 1,100 lateral equivalent feet of development. That was this month. The development is running at the highest rate for 2021, with December nearly 50% higher than November and almost 100% higher than the level in August 2021. They purchased new equipment, which should further enhance development and growth. They're installing ventilation fan infrastructure into their underground mine, and that should be completed in Q1 2022. And mining of the Sugar Cube, that's the first high-grade area in the east-north zone of the underground mine, is on schedule for Q1 2022. So this is all really good news for the company. But the stock remains pretty cheap.
It does. It's a great buying opportunity. And another unique attribute that the Pumpkin Hollow presents is that it offers an open pit and an underground mine. That is unique in and of itself in a great jurisdiction. I think it's a buy opportunity myself. And again, we're not providing.
Absolutely. I mean, the stock is trading at 52 cents today. That's American. And it's the net present value is below the kind of the value of the company here. You know, the company's going to be cash flow positive in 2022. And the open pit mining that you mentioned is going to accelerate in 2022. And with copper in a bull market, I mean, you know, listen, it doesn't get much better for copper producers. And here is a company that I believe is, you know, could either be an important player, an important producer in its own right, or a takeover candidate by the big, you know, 800-pound gorilla BHP, Rio Tinto, Glencore type companies who are starving for more production.
Now, there's two strategic investors that are coming on board with Nevada Copper. How do they fit into the narrative, and how does this impact the value proposition?
Yeah, well, listen, Solway Investment Group is a private international mining and metals group that's headquartered out of Switzerland. They specialize in nickel production, and they have mines and smelting plant investments in Guatemala, Ukraine, Russia, Indonesia, and Macedonia. The group has over 5,000 employees, and it's expanding its focus in battery metals. And it recently invested 30 million bucks for a 10% stake in Nevada Copper, and they're a company in the know. Now, Mercuria, the second investor, Mercuria Energy Group, is a multinational commodity trading company active in global energy, metals, and agricultural markets. They're close to my heart. You know, I worked for 20 years for Solomon Fibro and Solomon, and I was very active there running many businesses, and I also ran their copper trading business for a while. The company, Mercuria, dates back to 2004 when two ex-colleagues of mine, Marco Denard and Danielle Yagi, departed Fibro when it was when Citibank sold it to Occidental Petroleum, and they started Mercuria. So these are guys who really know the commodities business, and you know, as one of the leading trading and growing companies in the sector, Mercuria's goal is 50% portfolio in renewable energy over the coming 5 years. They too have invested $30 million for a 10% stake in Nevada Copper. Now, these two companies in the know are putting their money where their mouth is, and that's a very good sign. I mean, they don't put up their 30 million bucks each without doing lots of due diligence, Maurice.
Well, and speaking of good signs, I just take a look here. Randy Buffington, he's the CEO of Nevada Copper. He just purchased 200,000 shares in December. What does this also signal to the market?
Well, it signals that the CEO believes in the company, and there's nothing better than that. Look, just on the other hand, Elon Musk sold Tesla shares this year. I mean, listen, he sold them to pay taxes. But when a CEO or a founder or someone like that sells shares, it tends to bring the stock price down. You know, Tesla stock dropped 25% from its high. It's still very expensive stock, no doubt. But when a CEO and directors are buying shares, it shows that they really believe in their own company, and that's another positive sign, along with the Soloway and Mercuria investments.
Well, you're right on cue here. You know, when you go to visit the Pumpkin Hollow in Yerington, Nevada, you fly into Reno, and would you mind sharing? Is there a building there that you pass en route to to Yerington Tesla?
Oh,
They're right
yeah,
there.
exactly. They're making battery metals, and by the way, they buy a lot of copper and nickel and all the battery metals. And the bottom line is that that business is expanding. Look, 1% of U.S. cars now are EVs, about 1%. Okay, as that percentage grows, the demand for copper is going up. Wind turbines require a lot of copper. U.S. infrastructure building, the package that's going through, the trillions of dollars we're going to spend, that's going to require copper. And China is requiring copper. You know, in November, China was a huge importer of copper, even after they auctioned copper off back from July through October. So the global demand for this metal is growing. It takes 8 to 10 years to bring new production online. The demand side is outstripping the supply side, and big copper producing companies are looking for new sources of metal. And Nevada Copper is perfectly positioned in one of the best locations in the world. The Fraser Institute rates it number one, Nevada. And the bottom line is, listen, risk is a function of reward. But at 52 cents a share or something like that, it's a very inexpensive stock that offers a tremendous potential for rewards.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Hecht, you mind handing me my wallet back? Because you've just sold me. I love the value proposition of Nevada Copper. And for the record, yes, I do plan to add to my position in the very near future. Now, switching gears, Mr. Hecht, we covered copper and the unique value proposition that Nevada Copper presents to shareholders. Before we close, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
Oh, there's so much. I mean, it's funny. Wheat is one of the most, just to go away from copper for a minute, wheat is one of the most important political commodities. If you ask 9 out of 10 people, say, well, what's the most political commodity in the world? They would say crude oil. Because, of course, the Middle East has a very tumultuous past, very political region. And crude oil prices go up and down because of that. But if you look back through history, Maurice, it's wheat that has toppled more governments. Look, Marie Antoinette lost her head when she told of citizens of France, let them eat cake when there was a bread shortage. The Arab Spring in 2010 began because of a series of wheat riots in Tunisia and in Egypt. And as we head into 2022, wheat is at the highest price in years. And the tensions between the US and Russia around Ukraine, Russia is the largest wheat producing nation and exporter in the world, and Ukraine is with them. And we have the potential for real, much higher wheat problems if things get out of control in that region. And that has tremendous ramifications for world peace. And that's really what's kind of worrying me as we head into 2022. So keep an eye on that wheat price, because it's kind of a barometer for what's going on over there on the Ukraine border.
That's definitely something to take a look at and keep an eye on. Last question for you here. What did I forget to ask?
What did you forget to ask? Well, you forgot to ask if I had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope you did too. And, I dressed up as Santa Claus for my little granddaughter this year, which was very exciting for the first time. And no, you covered it all pretty much. And I look forward to talking to you in the new year, and I wish you a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2022. Listen, the world is a tumultuous place. It always has been. It always will be. There'll always be issues. But, our health and our happiness is the most important thing. And as we go into this new year, we have to go in with an optimistic spirit.
Couldn't have said it better. Mr. Hecht, for someone that wants to learn more about your work, please share the contact details.
Oh, okay. I write for a number of websites on a daily basis. I write for Bar Chart. I write for investing.com. I write for Seeking Alpha. I'm a partner in Bubba Trading. So you can read all my things there. I write prolifically on all of these commodities, copper included. So please follow me and let me know, what you think.
And we're proud to share your work also on proven and probable.com. Mr. Hecht, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Wishing you the absolute best, sir.
Thank you, sir.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.